at my
This
car.
HOA
Look what he did
president.
to my car. He did
No,
this
let's
on
be
purpose.
honest.
Ma'am, I
This
understand
neighborhood
you're upset, but you
dictator
need to calm down.
rammed
It
her
was just a
$65,000
little oopsie,
Lexus GX into my property 50-something times just because she didn't like where I put my garbage can. What started as a petty, early morning act of vandalism ended with me exposing a $40,000 embezzlement scheme, her getting escorted out of a public meeting by the police, and a life lesson about picking fights with the wrong kind of divorce guy. Picture this: Willow Creek Estates, suburban Atlanta. It's one of those cookie-cutter, step-forward wives-type communities where the mailbox color is approved colonial blue, and if your lawn is a millimeter over 3 inches, you get nasty gram. I'm Jake Miller, 42, an HVAC contractor, and 2 years ago, I bought the corner lot here right after my divorce, trying to build a fresh start for my 2 kids, Leo and Chloe. It felt safe, you know? Good schools, quiet streets. What I didn't budget for was dealing with Carol Vance, the self-appointed queen of compliance and actual HOA president. Carol drove a pearl-white Lexus, the kind of SUV that's basically a small tank, and she treated our monthly dues like her personal slush fund. She knew every bylaw. She was untouchable on the board, and she seemed to thrive on making other people miserable. And here's where geometry became my enemy. My corner lot meant the city mandated I put my bin precisely 3 feet from the curb every Tuesday morning for pickup. That spot, unfortunately, was exactly where Carol took her daily power drive at 6:10 a.m. sharp. The first time it happened, I was pouring my coffee. Crack! The sound was sickening, like a gunshot made of cheap plastic. I rushed out, and my trash can, brand new from Home Depot, mind you, was shattered. Garbage spread across my driveway like a confetti explosion of banana peels and coffee grounds. There she was, backing up her Lexus, rolling down the window with this saccharine smile. "Oh, Jake," she cooed, not a hint of sincerity. "These streets are just so narrow. I hope you weren't too attached to that flimsy old thing." Flimsy old thing? It was a $25 bin I bought last week. I bit my tongue. I figured it was an accident. The kids watched from the window, embarrassed, as their dad crawled around picking up soggy cereal boxes in his pajamas. But the next week, it happened again. Then the week after, twice. By the 5th time, I knew. This wasn't bad driving. This was a purposeful act of property demolition. My elderly neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, confirmed it, whispering over the fence. "She drives wide on purpose, dear. Plenty of room, but she aims for the blue can every time." I tried reasoning with Carol. I caught her on one of her afternoon patrols. "Carol, we need to talk about the trash situation." She cut me off with that tight, fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Jake, I understand you're new. Perhaps you should consider placement timing adjustments. Like the garbage truck was going to start collecting at 3 p.m.? That night, something in me snapped. I spent 10 hours researching county ordinances, HOA bylaws, and property rights cases. I realized 2 things. 1, she was violating my private property rights, and 2, my HOA actually had no specific rule regulating trash bin material or placement timing on collection day. The smirk she started giving me during her drive-by demolition runs, that little satisfied tightening around her mouth that said she was winning, that's what pushed me over the edge. By the end of the month, I'd replaced 5 cans. My frustration was costing me time and money, and frankly, it was stressing my kids out. Game on, Carol. I decided if she wanted to play a demolition derby, I was going to upgrade my vehicle. The idea came to me while talking shop with my buddy Marcus at the plumbing supply house. I mentioned my problem, and Marcus, who's been pouring concrete for 30 years, just grinned. "Nothing in the city code says a trash can has to be light, Jake. Plastic, metal, concrete. As long as it holds trash and fits the size, you're golden." That seed grew fast. I spent the next weekend in my garage with my kids helping me, classic rock blasting, mixing 80 pounds of fast-setting concrete and steel rebar inside a standard blue trash can shell. We left the drainage holes intact, made sure the exterior looked completely normal. But inside, it was a solid, immovable monument to Carol's future regret. Total cost? $62, less than the fine she was threatening me with. The following Tuesday, I rolled out my masterpiece. Carol, right on schedule at 6:10 a.m., approached slower than usual. She must have noticed something looked too perfect. The first collision came at her typical ramming speed, about 15 miles per hour. Instead of that sickening crunch of plastic shattering, there was a deafening, solid thud scrape. The entire corner of her Lexus dipped, the sound of expensive German engineering meeting the immovable object. I watched from the kitchen window, coffee mug warm in my hands, as she sat in her SUV for a full minute, frozen, utterly confused. Then, revving the engine, she tried again from a slightly different angle. Same result. More damage to her vehicle, zero damage to my concrete fortress. The beauty of it was its complete legality. If she wanted to keep hitting it, that was her choice and her insurance claim to file. Over the next 2 weeks, the situation escalated from petty vandalism to a full-blown war of attrition. Carol's Lexus started looking like a wreck from the junkyard. The front bumper was cracked, the passenger running board was bent at a sad angle, and one headlight housing rattled like a maraca. The neighborhood was buzzing. They were calling my house the concrete can compound, and the high school kids had actually started a betting pool on which part of her Lexus would fall off next. But Carol wasn't done. While I was congratulating myself on winning the physics battle, she was busy escalating the harassment. I started getting official violation notices for everything. My grass was 3.2 inches, 3 tiny tears in my window screen. My paint was unauthorized cream. She was hitting me with $50 daily fines, racking up to over $400 in total penalties. I fought back by documenting every single comparable violation in the neighborhood, including the 4-inch-tall weeds at the HOA treasurer's house. But the real game-changer came from Denise, the only reasonable board member, who pulled me aside one day. "Jake," she whispered near the community coffee station, "Carol is pushing through maintenance contracts with a company called Van Solutions. I don't trust it. She's also pushing hard for unauthorized property inspections." That was the key. Her motive wasn't just power, it was profit. I dove deep into public records, tracking my hunch like a short circuit. Within 2 nights, I found it. Van Solutions LLC, formed 6 months ago, listed Carol Vance's husband as the president and Carol herself as a 30% partner. They had been awarded 8 different maintenance contracts by the board, totaling $27,000, all approved by Carol without ever disclosing the glaring conflict of interest. She wasn't fighting me over a garbage can. She was fighting me because I innocently started asking questions about the budget right around the time her company started getting fat HOA contracts. My concrete can had accidentally protected the evidence of her systematic theft from 140 homeowners. I printed everything: the LLC registration, the board minutes, the contract payment records. The power dynamic had instantly shifted. She thought she was fighting a divorced HVAC guy over curb appeal. She was actually facing exposure for corporate fraud, fiduciary duty violations, and a lifetime of civil lawsuits. Desperation smells like burnt coffee and panic sweat, and it was radiating from Carol. She escalated to full-blown criminal behavior. First, amateur graffiti sprayed on my concrete. Can move or else. My cameras caught her Lexus parked 3 houses down. Then, I caught her sneaking around my driveway with a flashlight and a tape measure, trying to solve the mystery. But the final, terrifying straw: my son, Leo, found a small, magnetic GPS tracker, $350 professional grade, stuck to the undercarriage of my work truck. That moved it from a neighborhood squabble straight into a criminal stalking case. I drove straight to the precinct and filed a report. The confrontation was scheduled for the next board meeting. I didn't send a letter. I sent an invitation. I emailed every homeowner, CC'd the investigative unit at Channel 11, and had my lawyer prep the civil fraud lawsuit. The night of the meeting, the community center was packed, 150 residents in a room built for 40. Channel 11's news van was parked outside. I had my concrete can wheeled in, sitting right next to the podium as exhibit. Carol showed up late, flanked by her nervous-looking attorney, wearing a black blazer that screamed, "I'm fighting a capital offense." I stood up, holding my presentation boards like a prosecutor approaching the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice clear and carrying easily, "this is not about trash cans. This is about accountability, transparency, and stopping corruption before it bankrupts us. I laid out the timeline. 57 documented collisions, the GPS tracker, the fraudulent insurance claims. Then came a bombshell. I put up the contract analysis on the projector, showing the $40,000 she had funneled from our dues into Vance Solutions. "Mrs. Vance," I said, turning to face her while the cameras rolled, "you spent $2,000 on lawyers, destroyed your $65,000 vehicle, and stalled my family, all to cover up the $40,000 you stole from this community." The room erupted, just as Carol shot up from her chair, screaming about reckless elements ruining the community and launching into a full psychological breakdown. Officer Martinez walked through the doors. "Excuse me," he announced to the silent room. "I have a warrant to serve regarding insurance fraud and criminal stalking charges." Game over. Checkmate. Carol's face went white. She was escorted out of the meeting, trying to tear my evidence boards down as she was being restrained. The board immediately voted 4-0 to suspend her. The aftermath was beautiful. Carol resigned, was charged with fraud, and lost her insurance license. Our emergency audit recovered $40,000. Every homeowner got a $285 refund check right before Christmas. The civil settlement check was cut for $15,000, which I used to start a scholarship fund. My concrete trash can now sits proudly in the community center lobby, a permanent bronze plaque reading, "Property Rights Protected, 2023. Justice is sweet, but it's sweetest when served ice cold, with community support, and about 80 pounds of steel-reinforced concrete." Now I want to know, what's the most ridiculous thing your HOA has ever tried to control? Was it worth fighting back? Or did you just pack up and move? Drop a comment below, like this video if you cheered, and subscribe for more stories where the little guy wins.